Yo, what up? How's it going? And welcome back to another video. In today's video, I'll be showing you guys a Lucian twin shot guide. Now, this is my favorite comp to play right now, and this is specifically a Lucian variation, not a Corki build that is also out there. We're not going to talk about Corki carry. It is only Lucian. This is my favorite comp. I just used it to climb to Grandmaster, basically one-tricked it. I've just been playing it for fun, but it's actually been pretty strong, and I just want to show you guys how I've been doing it, and I hope you guys will have a blast with it. Let's get into it. Okay, now this is the in-game board. We're going to go through some early game stuff and mid-game stuff before we talk about late game, but I just wanted to show you guys what our desired in-game board wants to look like. Now, I've probably played about 20 matches of Lucian over the past 2 days, and this is the best in-game comp I have made while doing that. It is very strong, tons of CC, just tons of damage. Just the enemy cannot play. I mean, they're just constantly getting CC'd. These guys are tanked so much, and Lucian is just like life leeching, and this is just so good. So I just wanted to share with you guys this in-game comp. This is what we are working towards, but we are going to go into and talk about some early game composition. So let's go over into here and talk about what we want to do in the early game, and we'll talk about Lucian's items and stuff there. So item start, what do we want to start? We want to start rod, glove, or tier. And then after that, to a much lesser degree, we could go sword start. But if you go sword start, you can get baited into like itemizing GP and stuff like that, and you don't want to. You want to itemize Lucian or Corki when you're playing these AP twin shots, which is what we're doing. So rod start is so good because you can use infinite rods. I have found that Lucian's best items that have worked for me. Gunblade is just so good on Lucian. Lucian just dives in and ents a lot of times. A lot of people don't build as many Morellos as they used to. I think there's just not a lot of great holders. I don't know why it is, but there's a lot of comps that just don't have great Morello holders, so you don't get cut that hard. And Lucian just really needs the healing, and just really benefits healing his team as well, because he's just constantly shooting. Once you get a lot of twin shots in, he's just constantly healing. It's really, really, really good. And Gunblade is very good on him because since he has like a double tap effect, it's 2 separate heals. Whenever he does that, when he's 3-starred, it's double tap 3, and if he gets a twin shot proc, then he heals 6 times. You see what I mean? So it's very strong. He heals himself 6 times and someone else. So Gunblade is pretty much a must on Lucian unless you go the full crit variation, which we'll talk about later. After that, I think his best damage amp item is Jeweled. So that's why we are going to go Rod. But if we can't go Rod, I always go Glove next. And the reason why we go Glove next is because we can go full crit variation, and we can gotta get a budget Gunblade with a Hodge. You don't get to heal your team, but you deal a lot more damage. So either Glove or Rod is our best bet here. And we need a lot of rods for this build. But after that tier, there's a different variation, but I think it's the weakest one. It's where we build Static Shiv and Blue Buff, which I just prefer the crit variations and the Gunblade variation more. That's why we prefer going for Rod or Glove. Okay, some augments that we want to go for, that we want to start with the early game. Now, you can run tons of augments, but some of the best ones I found to work are any twin shot augment and Triforce. Those are the best things you can run. Hextech Heart is very good because you get into some weird things in the mid game where you can play like 4 Hextech or not play 4 Hextech. And so it just kind of helps with building more creative builds in the mid game, as well as a lot of time when you're building Lucian builds, you feel tethered to Sejuani. Sejuani is a very important unit for Lucian, and if you have a Hextech Heart, it makes it where you can play like Braum and stuff like that. Sorry, I was just recalling a game that I played Bodyguards, and it was just so strange. But if you aren't tethered to Sejuani, it kind of opens up a lot of build paths if you get the Hextech Heart. So that's good. And Luden's is very strong. Luden's very, very, very strong. You'll be casting a lot, and Luden's very strong with Lucian. Okay, cool. So early game, the reason why I have this screen open, I'm showing all these units, is these are all of the units we want to play around in the early game. Anything that you see on your screen, we can play around. And that has been the best things that I've found to work. So a lot of times the easiest things to run in the early game is just going to be 4 Hextech. If you high roll Lucian, straight up just run 4 Hextech, very strong. But if not, running like Bruiser Hextech Striker with Sejuani, with Jarvan, and with Rek'Sai, very strong opener. You can straight up just run Yordles and play Corki and just play around Yordles and just hold some of these units on your bench that you're going to play a little bit later and just play a Lost Streak early game. If you are willing to play Corki carry, you can totally just play Corki carry and don't even care about Lucian, but that's not what we're talking about here. But that is a variation that you can go. You can just straight up go Corki carry with the exact same items, but that is not what we're talking about here. But yeah, you can play around this, and then you can hold these and then transfer your build over to Lucian. But these are all the units we want to play around and just build compositions around this in the early game. The other thing I want to say about the early game before we start talking about our mid-game stabilization and some of the builds we're going to start making is it's very important to pre-level. We are going to force this build. This is if you're forcing the build. It is very important to pre-level because we need to hit Lucian as early as possible to help our itemizations, because we can go for a quirky 3 in this build a lot of times, and we can go for other 3 stars. But if we have to itemize item holders, it gets kind of weird. Also, Lucian is just great. If as soon as you hit Lucian, it just kind of opens everything up because you can play around hex text a lot easier. And it really just opens everything up. So pre-leveling, very, very, very important to hit Lucian and Sejuani. Once you have Lucian and Sejuani, everything starts to lock in. It starts to feel really easy to build your builds because you just build purely around those 2 units. Anyways, so that is the early game. We want to build around that. We want to pre-level and just play strongest board. Now, your goal is to get to a point on stage 3 where you have a lot of gold to roll. So usually this is going to be on your augment round. So usually I have about 40 gold to roll my augment round. You just want to be around that mark. I have about 40 gold to roll on the augment round. And on the augment round, the reason why you want to do it is because you have extra time to roll. We want to roll for stabilization. And this is just an example of a board that we can stabilize on. So bruisers and hextechs and twin shots right here. This is an example of a board we can stabilize on. We could also stabilize just on 4 hextech. Or we could also stabilize on like a 2 bruiser, 3 twin shot, and maybe like a socialite is also an option there. But this is going to be your most common, easiest to hit board is going to be 2-star bruisers, 2-star Lucian, and a 2-star Corki. So I usually will just roll until I either have my full frontline upgraded or I have a Lucian 2-star upgraded and a solid frontline in front of him. It doesn't necessarily mean I have to have everything upgraded, but yeah, I usually just roll to full frontline upgraded or Lucian 2-star and a big beefy frontliner. I need a big beefy frontliner so my Lucian can pop off. So that's what we're going to go for in the mid game. This is going to be on stage 3. We're going to roll on 6 for this board. Now, I just showed you some items here. This is the full crit variation of Lucian. This is the highest DPS version of Lucian, but I don't think this is the best version, but this one is pretty good. It does feel very good, but I do prefer the Gunblade. Really good with your double tap system, especially once you get to 3-star. Very good on him. Anyways, yeah, so we're just going to roll for a board that looks like this, and then we're going to push level 7 on stage 4. So by 4-1, we want to be level 7, just normal leveling intervals right there. And let's talk about the late game. Let's go back to this screen. Yeah, we're going to go back to this screen, and let's talk about getting to the late game. Now, what are your options? So after you created, you stabilize. Maybe you stabilize on that bruiser board we were just talking about. Maybe you stabilize on a hextech board. Doesn't really matter. Whenever we stabilize, we want to be strong enough to be decently strong on stage 4. So we're just going to play around that. Now you have 2 options once you're on stage 4. You can stay level 7 and slow roll for Lucian 3-star, for Corki 3-star, GP, for Zach. You can just play purely around bruisers and just sit there and slow roll for all of your 3-stars. Or you can decide to push levels. And the reason why you'd want to push levels is so we can upgrade to a much better composition, like playing around Colossus or playing around like Vi and getting that natural enforcer. And there's just a lot more options at 8. But the downside is your chance of hitting a Lucian 3-star is lower. So you can do either of those things. And it's because we have multiple win conditions. So our win conditions for this composition is either Lucian 3 or it's a Jinx 2-star. Those are our 2 win conditions. And the other thing that we can also do, and I've done this in, Grandmaster Challenger ELO, I've top 4'd with just a Lucian 2 because I was healthy enough going into stage 5. So it is possible to top 4. So a lot of the times I will decide to just push levels and roll down on 8 if I am very healthy going into there. And a lot of times I do either hit Lucian 3 or Jinx 2 when I do that. So I've just found it works going to 8, but I've also had games where I sat there and slow rolled and played for a bunch of 3-stars. When I have Triforce, I always stay level 7 and just roll for a bunch of 3-stars. I actually just had a game where I got done doing that, finished first place. So yeah, so anyways, that is the end of that. Sorry, I may have rambled all over the place. I've been wanting to get this guide out on this guy. I've been working on him all night at the end of a long day. So this was rambly. Sorry about that, guys, but hope you guys learned a lot. Just really wanted to get this out. I'm really excited about this build. It's my favorite comp. I haven't identified with a unit like this in a very long time with Lucian. Lucian is just my champ. It's so fun. I haven't identified with something like this since set 4 with like Jhin and Ashe. I just loved playing Jhin and Ashe. I just love playing Lucian. I hope he stays meta for a long time. And I found he's like not very contested right now. Keep getting him for free. People are contesting like Senna and stuff like that. So it's been very good. Anyways, that's gonna be it for the video. If you liked the video, please like the video. If you want more of me, follow me on Twitch or Twitter, any of those places. And yeah, appreciate you guys. Hope you have a good day, good night, and wherever you are, hope you're doing well. See you guys. Bye.